Hey everybody, welcome to Salty Church. We're so glad that you decided to tune in today, and we think that God has something to say to you. We've got a great message in store for you. We're going to invite you and encourage you to take some next steps in your faith, and we've got some great worship as well, which we're going to dive into right now. So no matter where you are or what you're doing, we just invite you to tune in and connect with God through these worship songs. Here we go.
Thanks for joining us wherever you're at. Would you stand? We're going to sing and worship together. Let's do it. Our praise becomes your house, your place. 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 Oh God, hey. Come on, let's declare this. We sing a song. We sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise and you come in. Sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise. So you inhabit the praises of your people. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Our praise becomes your house, your place. Our praise becomes your house, your place. Our praise becomes your house, your place. Oh God, yes it is. Let's lift our voices today. You sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise and you come in. Sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Yes, you do. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Come on, the Bible tells us that where two or more are gathered in His name, He is there with them in their midst. Come on, isn't that cool to think about that the Creator of the universe, because we gathered in His name, has joined us in this place? That's so cool. So with that in mind, I want to start singing this with faith, with hope, and with joy, because the Lord is with us today. So cast your cares on Him today, and let's sing this together. We sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise and you come in. Sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise. We sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise and you come in. Sing a song and you come in. Make a dance and you come in. Shout your name and you come in. Give you praise. Oh, you inhabit the praises want to welcome anyone who's new or who maybe hasn't joined us in a while, especially online, and invite you to sing with us today. Come on. I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. And heaven comes to fight for me. And I'm gonna say, in the middle of the storm, louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. Oh, he's alive today. I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah, and I will watch the darkness flee. Yes, we will. I raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery. You are there with me, Lord. I raise a hallelujah. If fear had lost your hold on me, I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna say, in the middle of the storm, louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. We're gonna lift your name today, Lord. Come on, sing a little louder. 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 Sing a little louder.
Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and the darkest night. You were close like no other. I've known you as a father, and I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Yes, I have, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running, it comes running after me. Your goodness is running, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running, it comes running after me. Yes, it does, Jesus. And all my life you have been faithful. Come on, sing it, church. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yes, we'll sing, we're gonna sing. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the
I don't know about you, but it's sometimes easy for me to forget about God's goodness. And when I really reflect on all the ways that He's blessed me, it just causes me to worship. So we just thank you for worshiping with us during this time. And again, welcome. We're glad that you joined us. We'd love to connect with you. You can leave us a comment wherever you're watching this from. Let us know who you are, how you're doing, how we can help you. And we'd especially encourage you to go on our website, salty.org. You can hit the Connect tab and connect with us that way. And we'd love to help you in whatever next step you have in your faith. One of the things we say around here a lot is we're better together. And we believe that life was not meant to be lived alone. So we'd love to get you plugged into a group. We have online options, a variety of ways that we can get you plugged in. Go to salty.org, hit the Connect tab, let us know you're interested in a group, and we'd love to get you connected. We are going to take some time to continue worshiping God on our own. We're going to take some connection time where, of course, you're welcome to go on our website, hit that Connect tab. You can give as well during this time to support the mission of Salty, to rescue and empower disciples for Jesus. We'd invite you to do that. And maybe to remember Jesus' sacrifice through communion during this time. Here at our campuses, we have little cups with juice and bread that just helps us remember Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. But you can use anything you have around you just to remember what Jesus did and how much he loves us. So we're going to take a break, do that, and when we come back, we've got a great message in store for you today with a special guest as well. So stick around. Here we go.
So, welcome to Salty Church. My name is Robbie. I'm glad that you guys are all here and everyone has joined us, whether you're in Ormond or the team with Jacob and Flagler, with Austin and New Smyrna, and people in Costa Rica and all around the world kind of tuning in throughout the week. Today is going to be a little bit different than normal, besides the fact I'm not up here by myself and I'm sitting down, which I find it hard to talk when I'm sitting down. We started a new series a few weeks ago, and the series was called Guided. And the whole part of that is just trying to really tune into what God is doing, how he's leading us, how to hear his voice. And we want to stay flexible to how God directs our path. You know, I'm always reminded of Proverbs 16:9, where it says, you know, in their hearts people plan their course, but the Lord determines their steps. In other words, we make plans all the time, but we're not in charge, right? And so 2 weeks ago, we started that guided series, but that wasn't even the plan. The plan was to have my friends Dennis and Kyle Leon from Costa Rica the first week in January, but then things happened, and for a variety of reasons, we had to postpone that, and we're going to do it this week. So this week, we're going to pause the guided series. So we're going to push pause on that for a second. We're going to go right back into it next week because I could not pass up the opportunity to share with you something that's extremely close to my heart. It's really important. And so hopefully you have some grace in that in terms of that series and all of that. But as we get started, let me remind you of a key scripture. It's Matthew 28. You know, you come to church and you hear scriptures, and this is a mandate that Jesus gave in ministry. He says, you know, he talks to his disciples, and he says, all authority has been given to me, so therefore go make disciples of all nations. And I believe that this scripture is for us. Go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And he tells all of us to be a part of this, which is his mission. And he goes on to say, and teach, and as we do that, teach them to obey all that I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always into the end of the age. And so it's a mandate. You probably have heard this scripture before. My point is this. It's a theological idea, but what does that look like in real life? Well, today we're going to explain that to you. And for me, my friends that are here with me today live this out in a way that's really fun and really cool to see. So with that said, let me introduce you. First of all, my friends here are from Costa Rica, and most people know, but not everybody does. Costa Rica is there. There it is. See Florida's up there? You got to fly over the top of Cuba. There we go. There's Costa Rica. And if you go to Costa Rica, you land in San Jose, and you got to go that way to the beach. And then they are in Estoril. Anybody been to Estoril and seen the mermaid before, La Sirena? There's several of you. Yep. It's one of my favorite spots in the world. It's where God does things to me, and it's amazing. And this is where Dennis and Kyle live. So with that said, Dennis and Kyle Leon, thanks for being here today. First of all, would you guys help me welcome them? And yes, very big deal. And why don't we start with Kyle? Kyle, talk to me about like you guys and your family. Who are you guys? And there they are, all of them.
So this is our family. I'm from California, and Dennis is from Costa Rica, and we've been living in Costa Rica now for 12 years. Our oldest is 16, Elias, and then Selah is 12. She was born in Costa Rica. I was pregnant when we moved there. And then Cyrus is 8, and Lucas is 5.
Yeah, very cool. And you guys are living in Estoril, which is there at the beach. And, for us at Salty Church, how this worked is we had been going to Costa Rica for a while, working in different places, connecting with Christian Surfers International. At one time, we had 90 people in Dominical, 3 days. We had 45, and together there was 90 at one weekend. Together at the same time from Salty Church doing work there. So we've been going a long time. One of the key problems is we didn't have any good partners to sustain what we were trying to do while we were there until about 12 years ago, and we were introduced to Dennis and Kyle. So with that said, 12 years ago, I remember coming into your house, you had probably like a 6-month-old baby. So it was just over 12 years ago, give or take. Dennis, talk about like what was going on in y'all's life. That you only had 2 kids at the time. What was going on in your life and ministry? Like describe what life was like then, when about that time we met.
Yeah, well, I remembered, like Kyle mentioned, she's from California. I am from Costa Rica. We met in 1999, and we married in 2002. I moved to California. She told me there was not any good men there. So she brought me in.
Nice.
And,
imported.
I follow her back. That's what it was. But I lived in, and I started serving Christ in California as an associate pastor for the Free Methodist Church. But mostly I was involved with the Christian Surfers in the chapter there. So God called us back in 2009 to move to Costa Rica, and that was a really tough time because it was like the depression, and for us to go back was meant to go in obedience because that was probably the worst possible time to be a missionary. Yeah. And so we moved back, and that's when we met you. I remember having you and Kyle Fisher, that a guy that I have adopted as my father in Florida. And, basically, I remember you guys sitting there. And at that moment, we really were in Costa Rica doing ministry, more of a kind of an organic type of ministry. Kind of had almost like a Christian Surfer chapter in our house. And our house would literally be out for the kids. And that was kind of the beginning of our ministry there. When you guys got there, we were doing this. We moved there to do church planting.
Yeah, and when you say you moved there, that was where you were born and were raised as a kid. So you're kind of coming back home and then launching a life together as a family. And it started out as a Christian Surfers chapter. So you told a story before about like the first year or so. What was that like as a church? What did that look like?
Yeah, well, for the first 2 years of our church plant, our church was the average age in our church was 14. So the first 2 years, one of the things also that's funny, to understand, think about that, is that the offering combined in those 2 years was $45. And
$45 for the year,
you know,
not one weekend. That was for the year.
so but that definitely our church started with kids.
Yeah. And so from there, that's where we were like, hey, this is somebody we could partner with as a ministry. So 12 years ago as a church, we started taking teams there and through Christian Surfers, through Salty Church, and saying, hey, how can we help? And just trying to connect with you guys. And for me, it was an instant connection. Besides, I had already had just passion for the people in Costa Rica. There's no other place in the world that has impacted me personally as much as that place. And then to have not just partners, but friends to connect with and to do ministry. And it is absolutely shaped Salty Church has been shaped a lot by their ministry. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have them here this weekend, is so that you get a better sense of that. And so over the years, we've been doing ministry together. We've been sending teams and that kind of stuff and helping. And since then, the church has grown. Now they're beyond just 14-year-olds. And along the way, I guess because it was youth ministry, we began seeing needs. And then out of some of that, we were trying to meet some of the needs. We ended up creating a program. Kyle, can you describe a little bit about that program that's happened how long ago now?
Yeah, so we have a big part of what Salty has done with us, not just with the church planning, is the Uno Mas program. And the Uno Mas program is a ministry that we put together with Salty Church to reach the needs of the kids in the community, especially the educational needs. And right now we have 4 learning centers, and we serve about 200 families and the students and their families. And a lot of what we do with these kids is make sure that they have the resources that they need. A lot of these kids are coming from families that there's illiterate parents or parents that didn't finish elementary or high school. So we're just really making sure that we make sure that these kids have the things that they need for their education. We also focus on creation care. We focus on the arts, giving them opportunities that they're not receiving in the education system in Costa Rica for them to express themselves and learn things about themselves. And of course, biblical values. And in Costa Rica, we're allowed to come into the school and teach biblical values, which is a great thing. It's a great opportunity to be able to go into the schools and be part of these kids' lives. And Salty's been there since the beginning. I feel like really we wouldn't have started Uno Mas if it wasn't for us having this vision and seeing this need in the kids and in the community, and being able to partner with you all have been a huge part of that.
Yeah, and so how long has it been since that? Was it 5 or 6 years?
No, it's been like 8.
Oh, really?
I think
8 years.
8,
Time flies.
8 or 9 years. Yeah.
8 or 9 years, and now 4 centers, 200 kids, and then talk about the element of why it's important to have some, support for those kids in terms of like graduation rates and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so one of the great things that actually happened just this last year I want to share with you guys about is one of the original boys, one of those 14-year-olds that came to our church, he actually lived with us. His family situation was difficult, and he went ahead and moved in with us. We helped him get all the way through high school. He went to college, the first one to graduate high school in his family. He's the first one to graduate college. And last year during the pandemic, he started a program called U2. And this program it helps students in our area, and we have, I think it was 3 students that were Uno Mas students. So they went through the Uno Mas program. We were able to support them and their families through the elementary years. They're going to college. They started college last year. And these are kids that a couple of them needed financial assistance, but most of them really just needed somebody to guide them through the college application process, help them know how to go online and apply for college, know how to get the computers that they needed. So we were able to help them with those kinds of resources. And I just love it because what we really want to see with these students that we're working with Uno Mas is that with one kid that has his life transformed because of the opportunities that we're getting, that they're receiving, is that they turn around and do the same thing for others in their community. And so we're seeing that with Esteban. Esteban received help from our family, and he is returning that in the community. And so he's making a difference not only for him and his family, he's impacting his community in ways that just me and Dennis, or even just our relationship with Salty and the resources that we're able to provide for these students couldn't happen. because he's from that community. He knows the needs, he knows how and when he can help. And so it's really it's great to see. And so we're super excited to see now second generation kids coming into Uno Mas and seeing how God is going to continue to work in their lives to change their communities.
And he put together a video.
Yeah,
So we
he
got
did.
just a quick glimpse of some of that. So go ahead and play that video real quick just to get a sense of like what that might look like real quick.
Uno más. Mejores niños para el mundo.
Yeah, I love that. And it, you know, you got all the fun stuff and the kids and all that, which is cool. But that video was put together by he was a kid, grew up, and now he's serving in new ways, helping those elementary school kids who most often aren't graduating middle school, now being urged to go to high school and they even have an opportunity to college. Big deal. And so that's one part of your ministry, but you have the church as well. And Dennis, I know as we talk over the years, in fact, you're the one who's taught me this as much as anybody, you know, where Jesus says, go make disciples, you know, of all nations. And so there's a sense in which, you know, that's what's happening here. It's Matthew 28. But with Matthew 28, go make disciples, Jesus didn't say, go plant churches. He said, go make disciples. And so if we're going to have a church, like you can have a church, then that's what you always said, is you can have a church without disciples, but if you're making disciples, you'll have a church. And so for you guys, one of the coolest things happened as you're doing church. The pandemic hits a year and a half or whatever it was ago, and churches shut down. So you're not allowed to have a church. You're not allowed to meet at all. So that just puts an end to your ministry, right? No. So tell what it was like. Talk. You know, like we have Salty Family Services. They got Uno Mas, but you guys also have the chicken ministry.
Yeah, well, like everywhere in the world, I think the last couple of years, we've been challenged to adjust things. And I think on the whole process of the pandemic, what really we found out probably two things more important than anything. We found out what is nice to have for ministry and what is essential to have for ministry. You know, and then the other thing is we found out that in the midst of all the chaos, God was never surprised.
Yeah.
You know, so God continued to be, he was never in quarantine, and he was never, you know, he kept on working.
He didn't stop.
Yeah, no, the church was going. Even though the buildings were probably shut down, the church kept on going. So something that happened, it was when the pandemic hit in Costa Rica, obviously it got shut down, no airport, no flights, no tourism. And where we live is the beach, the coast. Everybody there, that's the main income, is tourism. So when the hotels are closed and all this happened, the lady who cleaned the rooms, even the gardener who used to rake on the hotel, all those people got laid off. Everybody was fired, and this is people that live paycheck to paycheck. So, and then to make even things more interesting, now the school is shut down, so they have the kids in the house. They can't go anywhere. They have to stay in there. So when that happened, we kind of, as a community, I kind of pulled up some people, some leaders from the community, and say, hey, how can we respond to this? And we came up first with the first response was, let's start a food bank. So we started a food bank to start helping families that were having a hard time. But then it kind of dawned on me a week into it. I was like, we don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know if this is going to be 2 months. And literally, sure enough, I mean, some people that were helping on the food bank in the beginning were people needing help 3 months into the deal. So right like a week after that, what I said, hey guys, you manage the food bank. We'll continue to do that as much as we can, but we're going to start another project. It was a chicken project. I had $60. And what I literally did, I went out and bought 60 chickens, like broiler chickens, the little baby chickens. Those chickens, you raise them up, and in 6 weeks, you have, 5 pounds of meat, 4 pounds of meat. You can't raise protein that fast.
Not in 6 weeks, yeah.
So we started that, and what we did is we started giving it to the families, and it depends. We gave anywhere from 6 to 10 chickens according to the family, and we'll provide them with initial feed. And this was, it was phenomenal because it kind of got started. The families were not just excited about having those chickens to be able to eat them, but it also gave an emotional support for the kids. Because now the kids are entertained with the chickens. They're taking care of it. They're watching them, and they're learning about where food comes from. So it was like a whole lesson in itself. And the chicken project kept on growing, and people started saying, man, we didn't know how popular it was going to be. And it got so popular that people started investing. Local people, helping local people to the point that we actually end up making national news after we've been given 5,000 chickens already, because, and we were made national news and all that happened. And funny story, you probably don't know this, but after 5,000 chickens and social media and national news, we started getting bombarded by vegans, and I mean, and
Were they like, what about us?
nothing wrong. I really respect, vegans. I mean, that's one of the things. But I mean, it was brutal. I mean, I'm a criminal. I'm a carnivore. I'm a caveman. How could I call myself a pastor, even though a Christian, if I'm killing creation? And I understand. It was tough though. But it got so out of hand that I was like, man, this is just crazy. I don't know. We need to stop this. But thanks to them for to sharing all this in social media and making a big deal, some people, like an organization in Germany, find out. Not a vegan.
Yeah. They wanted to know how you were doing it.
Yeah, they reach out like, man, what you guys are doing is phenomenal. We want to help out. How can we do? And they send us literally like the next week. They send us 5,000 euros to continue with the project.
Wow.
So long story short, it's just kind of during the pandemic, the year of the pandemic, and this is fun because this is one of the things to be able to get the gospel is to be able to design an entry strategy. How do you get to people?
How do you plant a new church in a new town?
Exactly. So basically the entry strategy. So during the pandemic, that year when we were not supposed to see anybody, when we were not supposed to talk to anybody, we hand out over 15,000 chickens. And
Which,
yes.
it's meeting an immediate need. Where am I going to get food, eggs, chicken? You're meeting an immediate need, but that had another impact. It had a deeper impact.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
So basically what we could do is, and that kind of goes along like Robbie was saying, our focus or our vision in Costa Rica is to plant churches. And we use planting churches for the lack of a better term. We just say, let's make disciples so that these disciples form churches. So that kind of came with the approach that we're doing is that, we don't have the resources or the funds, and I don't think it's even a good idea to go and purchase a building, hire a pastor, and start a church. We don't have that luxury. So what we've done is we go into the community and we find the person of peace. And, and that it's a biblical thing. It's in Luke chapter 10, when Jesus sent the disciples 2 by 2 to find the person of peace. And even with this chicken project, what he meant was to go into a community and find who is the person of influence in that community. And we work with them, and they will design a list for us. So when we showed up there, we already had somebody local working there. And so it's somebody of influence, somebody, they're not Christians necessarily. A person of peace might not be somebody that is a Christian, but opens the door, and now we have a door open in that community to the ministry.
Yeah. And so 12 years ago, for me, going to Esterios and partnering with them, it's like, how can we expand our influence at Salty Church internationally, right? And so we had these like-mindedness that was just immediate for me. And so, Dennis, how can we help? So we were helping. And then he introduced me to somebody else, Pano, and he's planting churches up in the north. And so over the last 12 years, there's been at least 10 churches probably planted in the last 12 years. But with the chickens and the pandemic, it has opened. It's like what was happening slowly all of a sudden. Now there's significant doors open through shutdown and pandemic and the supply of chickens and more. And what you were saying, like 18?
Yes, right now we have established with their pastors, we have 5 churches and 18 houses of peace that, will transform into local churches.
So given time over the last 2 years, that all of a sudden now there's 18 new house churches that are giving birth to a full-fledged. So through pandemic, and meeting the needs and doing discipleship, all of a sudden this church planting effort is wildfire. It's really taken hold. And for me, I wanted you to hear some of that story, but also to have a broader context for us as a church. And so, if people are watching, to be able to see this is important. But for the Salty Church folks to know that in the last 12 years, this is one of the ways that we've been making a difference. When you give, when you serve, and when you pray about the ministry and what we do, this is the kind of thing that's happening around the world. They're one of several. In fact, besides what we're already doing with them, there's other efforts. I have a goal now, and I really want to spend some time on it this year, of planting at least 20 new churches in the next 5 years, which is a ton, right? Sounds like it's a big deal, and it is a big deal. But knowing that we have partners like them, and they're not the only ones, whether it's Dennis and Kyle or Pano and Nikki up in Tamarindo, or Daniel, Maria, Jose, and Nosara. We just recruited Isaac in the Dominican Republic, who's working with Go Ministries, one of our key partners. And in Florida, we've got a whole other effort in church planting with the Florida Church Planters. Internationally, like in Europe and all that, with the Surf Church Collective and more, this year we will invest more than $100,000 just this year in helping to reach that goal of 20 new church plants. And so what we're doing here in Ormond and Flagler and New Smyrna and more is making a difference, but it's having a global impact. And for me, I wanted you to see the faces and hear the stories a little bit, how Salty Church God is using us in so many ways. From the third grader who's needing encouragement to stay in school, to the family who needs 5 more chickens to survive the next few months, to the meeting the spiritual needs and the marriages and all the different things that are happening there. It's 12 years has flown by. It's been fast, and any 1 year doesn't really seem to add up. But all of a sudden, when you look at the 12-year span of what's happened and more, in the next 5, I'm excited for us to continue to partner with them to do what God has called us to do. In fact, from the global things and $100,000 and all of that stuff down to the individual, let me leave everybody here with this. Really kind of coming back to the heart of who we are, right? Matthew 5:13, where Jesus is talking and he says, "You are salty." Right? You are the salt of the earth. If salt loses its saltiness, so we need to stay salty, right? Then how do you, he's like, don't lose your purpose. When salt has lost its effectiveness, it's just cheap sand, right? Salt makes a difference in everything it comes in contact with. He goes on, he says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand so that everyone in the house can see. But here's the point in what Jesus was saying. In the same way, you let your light shine so that people see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. How do you let your light shine? Whether it's an Uno Mas program or teaching people how to raise chickens, such a simple thing. It makes a difference. So I want to, not only highlight and celebrate what they're doing, letting you know what we are doing, how we're having an impact, but then really bringing that home to what are you doing? Now, when you're partnering with Salty Church, you're making a difference internationally, globally. But also, what are you doing in your neighborhood, in your circle? So I just want to really kind of maybe pause there. we need another hour to talk and tell some more stories. We don't have that much time. But for today, hearing that, I hope it's just some inspiration in that. What does it look like for you to let your light shine? And maybe it's in partner with us, or maybe it's in partnership with them, or maybe it's your own thing, whatever it is. God has given us a mission. And so what I want to do is just really land with a couple things. Number one, you guys are in town for 2 or 3 more weeks, give or take. And so if anybody wants to connect with them individually, personally, and just to hang out, they're going to be with us in Ormond all weekend. You can hang out. If you're in New Smyrna, if you're in Flagler, and we want to set up something throughout the middle of the week, we can do that as well. And then eventually, once life gets back to normal, we'll begin sending teams back to Esterios and some of those other church plants that we're doing. And so that's all going to happen. But for today, let me just leave you with that one question. How will you let your light shine so that others may see your good deeds and give glory to God? What does that mean for you? So whether it's partnering together with your family or with us as a ministry, I just want to leave you with that and encourage you. We're going to reflect on it. You guys take a minute, talk about it. If you're here with somebody, if you're on one of our campuses, what does this mean to you? How might this inspire you in some way? And then after that reflection time is up, then we'll close out our time together, okay? Let's take a minute, talk about this, and then we'll finish. A couple things before you go. Number one, I wanted you to know, and I want to begin telling more stories like theirs throughout the year, letting you know that we have this one of our focus. So we have Salty Family Services here locally helping families, but we have an international focus, part of which is in Esterios, and there's more. And we are really making a really big investment, making a big impact, and you are a part of that. It matters what you do. It matters your generosity, your prayers, your service. It all adds up and to what God is calling us to do. Second thing is Dennis and Kyle are here. They're going to stick around after, so you want to go by and say hi and meet them in person. I'd love for you to do that. Lastly, we have our Group Connect. If you are looking for a small group, we've got Jan and folks out there on the porch, and you can meet them and start talking about what does that mean for you. There's a lot happening. So with that said, thank you for being here, and you guys go blessed. We'll see you next weekend. Thank you very much.